To understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, you know, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have abortions, you say that they have STDs. You know,
I mean, the question is, are they fat? Yes or no? The average American woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest. We now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in that.
And this is the problem. This is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive? It's nonsense.
We're not talking about morbid obese. I was actually watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee. I mean, like, I don't know what to say. This is the thing.
We'll pause there for a moment.
They hate the truth.
They hate the truth. She's going to get to that. But there can be nuance to what she's saying here. What if the girl is 6'3", then is 170 pounds? Like, but we're playing like it can't possibly be true. It is England, and they are very, you know, you can't be mean there. Being mean's against the law in England. Against the law in almost in every country but the United States, I believe. Or every first world country but the United States, but there's varying degrees to which they will enforce that. In England, you'll be arrested on the street for being offensive.
Yeah, shout out Lewis, who got scared. He came on the podcast and got scared that he was going to be associated with mean people.
That's true. Oh, you can't be mean. Just can't do it. Let's let this finish here.
Women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true. Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective facts.
Okay, I'm going to have to objectively...
And she insulted me first. They always do.
And that so much was true with this woman as well. She got in a couple digs on her because they, you know, they can't really... She's right. She can't get to the facts without hurting the feelings. And when I was talking about this last week, I brought up these Ann Coulter clips. I don't know if you've seen these, Eric, where she's talking about single motherhood and people who are the product of a single mother are more likely to be incarcerated, more likely to be drug addicts, felons, etc., etc. And the entire show the entire audience for the show she was on, all it was woman after woman after woman standing up and saying, but I know a single mother who's wonderful. I was raised by a single mother. I'm a single mother. Tra la la la. And they couldn't just get around the straight facts or statistics of the matter. It'd be like saying, you know, you go to a neighborhood and 65% of the people are heroin addicts. Just a fact. 65 out of 100 people there do heroin, and you go up to the 35 people who don't do heroin, you say, you know, 65% of you guys are doing heroin, and this person stands up and says, I don't do heroin. I also don't do heroin. How can you say this? And this is kind of like the same thing. This girl wants to be offended on behalf of other people so that she can feel good about herself, or so that other people think she's a good person. It's pretty much classic case of virtue signaling. And the other thing I'll say about it is, on the other end, the people who were opposed to what Pearl said last week, which was if you're 25 as a woman, you're probably more attractive as 35. Of course, it's not going to be the case for probably not even like a super high percentage of women. It might be 75%. I don't know. I don't have the statistics on that. I don't think any exist. But the reaction to it is what makes people go like, huh. If she's saying this and you're freaking out about it, then you probably know deep down that it's true. Just like this girl, if she's got such a visceral reaction to it, Eric, she probably knows that, you know, whoever this girl was talking about, that she's probably pretty big.
Well, the exceptions that they give basically prove the rule, right? So yes, like you can, of course, everybody's going to have their own little anecdotal evidence, which basically just proves the rule, right? So the exception makes it true. In my head, right? Like of course, if it were all one way, then whatever, it doesn't matter. Also, I think it's funny how I didn't see the other clips that you were talking about, but it's funny how the phrasing, I think, makes a difference too. So if they say children who are a product of a single mother home are more likely to do X, Y, and Z, which is, as I understand it, the same as some people who might say fatherless homes are the problem. But the framing there is different, right? So if somebody tries to put it on the mother as the fault of, being a single mom and she's the reason, versus the father who's not around, or he might be incarcerated. And then, of course, there's going to come into that argument of, well, we have this problem with mass incarceration, and there's always going to be a problem, right? And we can talk about Ben and Jerry's or whatever, and how there will never come a day where these people, any of these weirdo people, and I'm sure there might be an exception to this rule as well, but there will never come a day where any of these wackadoo, weirdo, utopian type of people are ever going to come out and say, well, thank you, we did a good job, we're moving on. It's never going to be enough, right? Every time something happens, if they get one step closer to a goal, they're just going to create something new. But I guess my point here is, it's very interesting, or I guess not that interesting, it's just funny to hear how the framing turns it sort of into a different conversation. So these women say, well, I know a amazing single mother, but if it were the other way around and they said these fatherless homes are the reason why these kids are doing this, would they then say, well, I know a bunch of single dads who are doing great? Or, you know what I mean? It's the same problem. It's the same problem, just framed a little differently, which I guess is, I guess that you could say that about anything, right? And that's what the left or the establishment or whatever you want to call it, they're constantly reframing everything and redefining words so it all fits their narrative no matter what happens.
Let's watch one more clip. It's a minute long. And this is where, I don't think her logic here makes sense.
That's why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish that first? So I'm saying, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married?
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
See, where that one doesn't make sense for me is she's really taking a hardcore, like, evangelical Christian or Catholic point of view on marriage. And she doesn't seem to, and she's not preaching God and stuff. And she's saying that you should accept that if you have a rich husband, that he's going to cheat on you. That's part of having a rich husband, essentially, is what she said before. And I'd like to see, like basically, let's have her stack up together with Bryce and Gray on this matter is where I'm coming from on that one. Because unless you're, going full bore through and through with these values, then you're going to stumble when you have that hardcore of a view on something. She's saying divorce shouldn't even exist, and people who believe that you should be able to get divorced should not even attempt to get married. They should just stay in long-term relationships. And the sanctity, she's bringing up all these religious values of a marriage, but I would wager, and like this woman said, to her point, that she's not a virgin, and there's probably a heck of a lot more things about the religious point of view that she isn't fulfilling. Having said that, though, maybe she's just picking and choosing, and I guess she has the right to do that. But that's what I meant by saying, like, people are being forced now to defend these very simple truths, and people are saying, oh, she's a female Andrew Tate, and until she gets banned and arrested, then I don't know if we should go that far, Eric.
Well, I don't think this is that far-fetched, right? I mean, I don't think, look, we're basically at a point where you have to take a hard stance, because every single time you try to meet these crazy people in the middle, they just drag you further. So there is no more, well, let's meet in the middle. So would I 100% agree with her? No, probably not. But I'm not angry. It doesn't bother me that she has a hard line, because if you don't, these people are going to run roughshod over you for any issue. And as far as her not being a virgin, whatever, like, your views change. I'm certainly not the same person I was when, in the back of the Buick, whatever.
A Buick, Eric.
Well,
class it up a bit, please.
Well, the point
Firebird.
is she has clearly grown. She has evolved, or, matured from who she was whenever she lost her virginity, right? So I don't think that's like flip-flopping or anything. Is it extreme? Yes, but unfortunately, and I feel like I've mentioned this in a different way, sort of, that you have to there's the middle ground has been demolished. There is no more middle ground on basically any issue in the Western world, basically. So you are either at the point where, kill the baby until birth, a little boy is a little girl, or, abortion should be illegal, divorce should be illegal. And there is something to be said for an annulment. Like if you have an actual issue, like if your husband or wife has been found criminal or has been found lying about their entire life or was physically abusive, there's ways to get an annulment that doesn't just have to be like, this fly by night, I just want to go out and party type of vibe. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening with all these women but there should be a line of where you can actually have provable issues that you need to dissolve a marriage completely versus these, 30-year-old ethoughts who just want to sort of quote unquote level up or who are just, sick of their husband. And it goes for men too. It 100% goes for men too. I'm not trying to pretend. I'm not trying to say that, men should be able to do whatever it is they want. So I guess my point is what she's saying doesn't seem that bad to me, doesn't really seem that extreme. And yeah, it sounds like, a little bit hypocritical, but, I don't know where Pearl is from, but it's very hard to shake the peer pressure and the way of life growing up, right? Like I grew up in San Francisco, California, and I'm definitely not the same person I was, all the way up until, my 18th or 20th birthday that I am now. So things change, times change, and she's allowed to change her views, and she needs to draw a line in the sand, as we all do. Otherwise, the crazy people are going to run roughshod over you, and they're going to, trans your kids and kill your babies and make you rent an electric scooter because you can't drive a car. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I don't think it's that far-fetched. Again, I don't know a lot about this Pearl woman, except for every couple of months she seems to go kind of viral. So she's probably doing something right. If you can get their attention and you can ruffle that many feathers, you're probably doing something right, in my opinion, obviously.
Yeah, and when you're on a lot of these shows and you're faced with women who are saying, OnlyFans is amazing and how dare you have a problem with me being a prostitute, essentially, you probably do have to go pretty far to one side to try to get somewhere in the middle, try to get through to these women.
Turn it up, Jordan.